So the Springboks won the Rugby World Cup with a lot of overseas-based players. This kind of buckled the trend of top-tier teams not selecting players based abroad. Will this kind of buckle the trend, change the trend in the world? Hear my opinion right now. Welcome back, guys. This topic I read in an article, I think, on Rugby Pass, and it kind of got me thinking a little bit. Got me thinking on how South Africa actually won the World Cup by selecting a lot of overseas-based stars, along with also domestic-based stars. It kind of was a little bit different because 6 of the 8 quarterfinalists only selected players based in their own countries. This is England, Ireland and New Zealand. They were very strict on these rules. France, Japan, Australia, they are very similar on those rules as well. And then Wales, they also had the same kind of story, just with a 60 cap rule. Everyone with more than 60 caps for their country can be based abroad and can still be selected. But you'll remember guys like Rhys Webb not making the team, which was a big blow for them. So South Africa was the only team that kind of just scrapped that rule. I'm going to tackle that right now. Remember to subscribe if you do like the channel. And then check out some of the Facebook pages, Twitter, Patreon. I have that now as well. So look, South Africa, they had a 30 cap rule till very recently, till 2017 under Alistair Coetzee. This was kind of to stop the drain of youngsters going overseas, going to England, France and Japan, getting some big bucks over there. Some of our players also play in the domestic cups in Australia and New Zealand as well, and they make more money over there than they do in South Africa. So the trend of players going overseas from South Africa is a big thing because the money over here is bad for the players when compared to any other top tier country. And Rassie knew that. He knew that our players are going to continue going out. Doesn't matter. The Springbok jersey is an important thing to them, but it's just not enough. They would want to kind of go overseas. Still, they want to go get that money. It's a short career, a rugby player's career. They need to make money in that time. So Rassie came, he scrapped that rule, saying he'll choose a home-based side unless there is better players based abroad. Meaning guys like Faf, Reinach, Koch, Mostert and Colby was all of a sudden eligible to play for the team alongside the guys that had more than 30 caps. Guys like Leroux, Frans Steyn and Francois Louw. Big names in the Springbok team. It's 8 players in the total 31 that went to the World Cup. It's quite big names over there as well. From the players that went to the World Cup, it's going to increase to 14 players at least in 2020. All the guys that have confirmed that they are going overseas, and the guys like Damien de Allende and RG Snyman who are rumored to go to Munster. And it can still increase. So some very influential names are on the list of players playing overseas. And I think without these influential players in the team for the World Cup, the 8 that we had in, guys like Colby and Faf, I just do not see how South Africa would have won the World Cup without them. 7 of the 8 players actually were in the match day 23 of the final in the World Cup. But look, it's not as straightforward as that. A lot of times the big issue around selecting guys based abroad is the problem of coaches can't manage the game time of that player. So a lot of times Rassie would tell the players over in South Africa, or the unions over in South Africa, the player has to play a little bit less. You can't do that over in France. You can't manage the guys' game time over there. And that management of game time is a big issue. It's always been a big issue. They want their players not to be completely exhausted coming to the side. It's also difficult to sometimes get your players available. Think of it when Sexton had problems coming to the Irish side back when he was still based abroad for Schmidt. For the Irish side, he struggled. So subsequently, after he actually got back to Ireland, he just stopped trying to get guys back from overseas. So guys like Zebo and Ryan, they just missed out on the Rugby World Cup. 2 big names to miss out on the team. Rassie, he was close to this action in Ireland, knowing that all this stuff is happening. when he was coaching in Munster. And when he came back to South Africa, he realized the stupidity in willingly weakening your squad and instead get overseas based players in your side who benefit from learning from other teams, learning from other structures and other big names in the game, and get your young guys in from South Africa itself or from your country, and get them into the structures, and the two mesh together and teach each other a lot. So as I mentioned previously, one of the big problems are that the coaches can't manage the players' game time, so they don't want their player to be tired by the time they get to the internationals. But Rassie got it right to just select the guys even though they had a lot of games behind their back. Reinach played 30 games, Koch 29, Faf 23, Leroux 19, Low 17, Mostert 16, Colby 24, and then Steyn 19. They are all way more than the other South African based players who probably play 15 games at most, showing that that wasn't a problem. It wasn't a problem having a guy play a lot of games and then coming into the side tired, because I mean Reinach played 30 games, Koch played 29 games, Colby 24 games, and they starred in the Rugby World Cup. The test window started in July 2019. The Springboks won the Rugby Championship and the Rugby World Cup. So, I mean, that just speaks for itself. Will other teams start doing the same thing now that it is kind of clear that it kind of does work? I mean, imagine New Zealand with the likes of Sapuaga or Cruden back in their disposal. From an article that I read, it's dated in 2018, end of 2018, there are 61 former All Blacks based abroad from New Zealand, so they could have learned from that experience over the years. Imagine Australia not trying to secure contracts for White and O'Connor just before the World Cup, kind of being a distraction from the side, and just having them at their disposal and not having to worry now about losing Karevi because he's gone now. He's not going to be eligible for their side anymore. A pretty young guy, still in his peak of his career, not going to be playing for their team anymore. Imagine them still having him to their disposal and him learning from other countries. He's just going to get better from playing in other places. And then as well, English stars playing in France. Imagine them learning there and also coming back to their sides. I can go on. There's a lot of teams that could just benefit from playing with overseas-based stars. It is an exciting prospect if you think of it. I think the team that would be the most dangerous out of this whole combination would be New Zealand. Obviously, they have very big names overseas. But look, it's not the solution everywhere. Look, South Africa, it is a different situation. There's no money over here. There's little money to pay all the players. It's not a lot of money that they get for salaries. But in the professional era, money is an important thing for a player. It is a big role. You need to get money if you want to have a sustainable life after rugby. So that's why it's happening over in South Africa. A lot of players are going overseas. That doesn't matter if they will be picked or not. So the system kind of needs to adjust for that. And you can go on with guys like in Argentina as well. Argentina has very big names based abroad. They also selected some of their overseas-based stars. Not all of them. That might be the problem that happened with them. But I just don't want to go into too much depth there. But I think we might see a little bit of more leniency coming up to the next World Cup from countries, knowing that you can pick your best stars and your teams can still continue growing and being at its best. Yes, losing some of these big players will weaken the domestic teams, the domestic sides, especially the Super Rugby. If I think of it immediately, if a lot of South African, New Zealand and Australian players go away, but it just gives younger guys an opportunity to also step through into the ranks. I mean, Herschel Jantjies, who just exploded onto the scene this year. How I've seen things happen is the younger guys step up, they bring their game and they do well because they kind of play in a good environment as well. Effectively, you'll have good players playing abroad. You know what they can do. You already know they are going to get better abroad and they're getting a better salary. So they're getting more for their efforts, so you know they are secure, and as well you keep them a national to your country. They don't immediately become a foreign national because you're not selecting them, but you're also giving space for the domestic clubs the developing players of the domestic clubs to come through. They get game time, they get exposure, and they don't go abroad. The young guys don't go abroad. Before you know, they are actually ready for your country. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to talk about, guys. I wonder what you are thinking. Let me know in the comments below. Look, I don't think a lot of countries are gonna start doing it, but I think we might see a little bit of leniency. South Africa surely has to continue with it. I mean, with 14 guys of this current Springbok side going overseas next year, that's half of the side. We're gonna have to continue it because there's just big names that's gonna continue draining out of the country. That's it for the video, guys. Please share this to your friends if you did like it. If you want to support the channel, I have Patreon now. And then also check out some of my other videos. Cheers.